What's up, everybody? It's Pikel with League of Items, and I'm joined once again with John from the THEESPORTSDepartment.com, aka the Esports Plug. John and I are both big fat losers today. I think that anyone anyone watching this video probably realizes that we gave out a lot of good information yesterday overall. But apparently when we decided to make our King of the Rift lineups, we decided to lose instead of win. So feels bad. We didn't have RNG. We didn't have enough RNG and in the right spots. So I am quite sad today. Was not how I wanted my day to go. John, how are you feeling?
Yeah, it sucks, man. It sucks to get eliminated from King of the Rift. Last year, I came like 10th or something. I was hoping to redeem myself this year and pick up a win. And today, watching that RNG game, it's just like, well, we're going to need 3 or 4 RNG or the day's over, and I just don't have 3 or 4 RNG. So, unfortunate, but, we truck on.
Yeah. Congrats to a couple of the people in the esportsdepartment.com. We had some big wins today. I know that Emmerich did really good. Or did really well, and then one of the guys from my Discord has 2 lineups in the King of the Rift in the finals, so hopefully he can make something happen in the finals. Just to recap my picks from yesterday from Discord, I had T1 lost, Damwon won, Hanwha lost, RNG won, FPX lost. However, in parentheses, I said I'm betting C9 on the sportsbook because it's a big number for a best of one. Or actually, no, FPX won. But they should have lost that fucking game.
That's what they won.
They should have lost that game. I'm taking that as a win. And betting on DFM because of the odds on the book, that didn't look so great. John was definitely right about 100 Thieves. Gen.G lost to Mad Lions. Feels bad, man. That game was just atrocious on so many levels. That kind of draft and then fighting Kiana in a tight space in the jungle just blows my mind. Like, they did it 3 or 4 times, and we've seen it multiple times with some of these teams. Like, you want to know why Yumi's so good? And there's, like, cement trucks outside, by the way. I don't know if you can hear that. But you want to know why Yumi's so good? Is because it turns champions like Wukong into an actual tank that can also engage and be unkillable. Or Talon, it's just additional damage for Talon, makes him unkillable. Additional damage for a champion like LeBlanc, Kiana. It's just like all these champions are just better when Yumi is attached to it. So it's, I don't know what's going to happen. They're not going to nerf it during Worlds, so I think you just have to start banning it if you're red side, because nobody has a good strategy to stop it, and all these teams letting it through look so dumb when they lose with it, and then the whole Jarvan fiasco. But was there anything else you wanted to say about these games? Let's just go run through the games real quick. So T1 EDG, I don't have much to say. I thought that the draft was exactly what we were talking about from T1. This is the extremely type of difficult composition that it's very tough to actually win. The win conditions really aren't there. The engage options, while they are technically there, they're really difficult to pull off. Just not a good draft by T1.
Yep, I agree. And, it's one of those things you can get away with when you're playing against the lower tier LCK teams or whatever, but it's going to be a lot tougher when you try to get away with it against EDG or somebody like that. So
exactly. And then Rogue against Damwon, kind of similar. Pretty difficult engage options for Rogue. They did have the Fiddlesticks, but that's like your primary source of engage. Not sure how that's going to work out. You're playing a non-CC composition against a Talon. Good luck with that. Anyone for that? I mean, that's kind of what we expected.
Yeah, it's just a bit of a heartbreaker in that I thought Rogue was in this game. Like, this was a legit shot to see an upset, I think.
Yeah.
At points in this game, it felt like they had a shot, but I mean, it wasn't like any of us came in thinking that Rogue had a great shot at beating Damwon. So a good showing from Rogue gives additional faith for the rest of the tournament.
Yeah, the one thing I would say is that we mentioned, Hans Sama on actual carry champions like Draven or Lucian. Like, he can put up a fight in the bot lane, especially against an overrated bot lane like Ghost and Beryl. He kind of did that. So
yeah, he was a superstar in this game.
And that's really why I love him so much. Like, he does stuff like that where other players just aren't willing to do it. They're probably not capable of doing it. PSG Talent against Hanwha Life. This game was super frustrating for me. I mean, they had all the tools to win this game, and they just threw it so hard. It's another spot where Jarvan just looked like complete garbage. it's they didn't have a true tank. Meaning PSG didn't have a true tank. Like, that's the kind of composition that Draven should just completely steamroll. So it's just another reason why we should be banning Yuumi at this point. Anything from this?
Like, this was a game that, like, if Hanwha Life had played a little bit better in the early game, in some of the mid game fights, I felt like Hanwha Life had the better positioning and got a better engage, but they were just too far behind. Like, when the Jin bullets started coming in,
oh yeah,
you'd see a sweet engage where it looked like Hanwha was going to win, but as soon as that first Jin bullet hit, you're just like, oh, he's just going to murder their entire team if they don't back off. And so they just had to give up all their engages. They just needed a better early game in this one. It didn't change my opinion too much of either of these teams. They both feel pretty close to me.
Yeah. The one thing I would say about Hanwha Life is that this team composition doesn't really make a lot of sense from the perspective of how they played it out. Like, you need to push the advantage. Like, you have Jarvan and Draven, and you have Jarvan, Draven, and Pyke who all want to do stuff. You have Azir who can do stuff but doesn't necessarily want to a lot of the time. And then you have Camille who's just not in line with what those other champions want to do. So
you see it in some of these fights. Like, there was a fight specifically in the bot lane that I remember where Hanwha Life set up a nice little play in the bot lane, but when Chovy gets in there, he just doesn't do any damage yet. Like, It was an early play in the game, and like, if they had a mid laner that dealt damage at the 12-minute mark or whatever, they would have gotten an extra kill here and not let anybody die. Instead, I think 2 of them ended up dying, and they only got 1 kill or whatever. Yeah. Basically, they turned a winning play into a losing play because their comp wasn't focused enough on the portion of the game where they were fighting.
Yeah. The next game, we had RNG against Fnatic. RNG just completely slapped Fnatic around. There was the point, it was like, I don't know, probably 10 minutes, probably less than 10 minutes into the game, when Niski teleported top lane into 3 people and just died and like had no chance of killing anybody. That was wild to see. There's really no takeaway from this outside of Fnatic doing the PSG thing where they're looking for spots to get back into the game. They actually had some okay fights where Adam got like a triple kill and they got 4 kills when they were down like 4,000 or 5,000 gold. So that kind of stuff is nice to see. Like, I like their aggression, and that's why they give up 34 kills. So they're still the loser that we want to target. I don't know. It's just a bad situation with Fnatic right now.
Yeah, I was a little surprised to see people harping so much on this performance. I saw a lot of people on Twitter saying things like this was showing off how mentally broken the team was or whatever, but this was how Fnatic played all year, with upset as well. Like, when they were losing, they just fought constantly and tried to get back in it, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I did feel like maybe this was a little further than we're used to seeing from them, but still, this is just how Fnatic plays. So I actually think Fnatic might make a good spot to look for a bounce back from them and try to make some money off of how low everyone's opinion of them is right now.
Oh, you mean the 34 deaths is not normal for them?
Yeah.
Did we get a game with 8 dragons today? The over under 7.5, and I know that we got to 7 twice today. Did either of those go over?
Oh, I'm not sure if we got to 8.
Yeah,
Let's see. Hold on.
Kind of sweating that a little bit. I'll keep going to the next one. So next is FPX against Cloud9. This game was a fucking heartbreaker. Sorry to the children for cursing. But I knew exactly what was happening when they started the whole split push thing where FPX was in the bot lane and Perks was in the top lane. I knew that they were just like, well, we'll just coin flip it, kind of see what happens. Maybe the split push works, maybe it doesn't. And right when it started, I'm like, this game is over. I can't believe they just lost the game this way. Super sad.
Yeah, this is. It felt like a more exasperated version of the Rogue Damwon game, where like Cloud9 was clearly in it and probably should have won the game, and just threw pretty hard. But I mean, that's kind of what happens with the best teams, right? Like the best. That's kind of what makes them the best teams. And I do think Fun plus Phoenix is the biggest underperformer of the tournament so far relative to how we felt about them coming into the tournament. I think a lot of people, including me, had them as the favorite to win, or at least among the top like 3 favorites. And at least so far, they haven't looked like one of the best teams in the tournament for sure.
Yeah. Yep. I had the bet on C9. I felt really good, and it played right into that narrative that we were talking about potentially underperforming. 100 Thieves against DFM. 100 Thieves won this one. There were points in the early game where I thought it was fine, but I stepped out. I went out for something at this point, so I didn't watch this game.
Yeah, it was a reasonably even, like, very early game, but once 100 Thieves got control of it, they were just in control of it for the rest of the game. I felt pretty good about that. I'm excited for 100 Thieves matchup tomorrow when we talk about that. I think 100 Thieves is just better than DFM from what I've seen so far.
Okay. Mad Lions against Gen.G. This was a very frustrating game for me personally. This is like the game that I had circled on my calendar to know whether or not I was going to get flamed. So I think that if you want to try and paint a good picture for Gen.G, you could try to say that they were able to team fight from like losing positions and like hold their own and do a pretty good job in that way. But they gave up that dragon. The fact that Lucian managed to steal that dragon was almost game losing. It was probably game losing because if they had Dragon Soul, the fact that you'd have the Ocean Soul, it would have made the rest of the game a little bit easier for them. But then they also gave up a 3,500 gold lead. So those are two horrible things. You don't really expect a team, a professional team, to give up a 3,500 gold lead. That doesn't happen very often. The team compositions really didn't give much reason to think that that would happen. Like, yes, they have a Callista, but they have sustained damage from the Azir, Xin Zhao, and Graves, so it's not as egregious as in other situations. The fact that Yuumi picks up another win is concerning. The fact that Qiyana picks up another win is concerning. Like, if you're a team and you think that a good response to Yuumi Qiyana is anything at all, how? Why do you think that? Like, why are you not just instantly taking away these insane champions? With that being said, you don't want to put Yuumi on top of a Graves. You don't want to give up Yuumi Graves, Yuumi Xin Zhao, Yuumi Azir. Those are all good combinations with Yuumi as well. But if you get to that portion of the thought experiment where you're like, what can we combine Yuumi with, and if we give it away first, like, how much trouble are we actually in? If you're on step 2 of that process, then ban the Yuumi. It's just too difficult. It's just too difficult to play against right now. You have to punish it extremely hard in the lane, and if you're not willing to do that, commit all those resources to completely stomping out that bot lane, then just don't do it. It's just, you look like a jackass. That's really it.
Yeah, one thing I'll say about this game is yesterday I really harped in our conversation on the fact that what I liked about Mad Lions during the regular season was the fact that they came back a lot by just out team fighting and being in better positions for team fights and stuff. And I was very excited to see that was what happened this game. It was like, obviously, I do think their champion combinations were really insane, but they got really far behind. They positioned well. They did what they had to do to win the game. It wasn't a strategy that was going to win them the game 100% of the time, especially when you get behind in the early game like that. Sometimes you're just going to get run over. But I was happy to see them getting back to their roots a little bit after yesterday, where I felt like they were like completely lost. So brings me back a little bit on the Mad Lions.
Yeah. The last thing I would say about that is that Yuumi plus area of effect champions is like the most stupid thing ever. Like, you have a Wukong spinning around with a Yuumi on top of it. You're not going to kill the Wukong. It's just going to take forever. Same thing with Qiyana. They're fighting around the blue side red buff. Like, do you know what any of the champions on the other team do? Like, they control this area. Don't go anywhere near that area. Just go stand by the dragon or something. Like,
Qiyana has looked absurd when she's gotten a chance to get in so far in Worlds. Yeah. She's been nuts.
They were standing on the wall. Like, they were setting up for a dragon. 5 of the players from Gen.G were standing on the wall. I'm like, all she has to do is ult that thing that you're standing next to, and then you're all going to get stunned. Just, it's insane. Like, if outside of like my frustration for a specific team not playing it or not banning it or something, one thing as a piece of like proactive advice would be, if you think that a team can play Qiyana, if you think that a team cannot play Qiyana, then you should just assume that they're going to lose that game from now on, because if they're not banning it, they're going to lose. If they can't play it, they're going to lose. So that's one thing, like, when you're making bets, to try to keep in the back of your mind. But let's move on to tomorrow. D-Tilt. So game 1, we have...
One more.
Sure.
LNG Team Liquid, last game of the day.
Oh, okay, I missed that scoreboard. LNG stomped Team Liquid. I don't have anything to say about this one.
The only thing I was going to say about this one is I think this is just what this group is going to look like. Like, this group just seems pretty evenly matched, and I think a lot of the games are just going to look like not necessarily stomps, but I think this is a group where, like, anybody in this group can beat anybody else in this group, and it's going to be really hard to predict who's going to win game to game.
Sure. And stylistically, I mean, you're going to get a lot of games that look like this where one team completely falls over and dies. It's like, it reminds me of chess, I guess, where like you have players who like have like a bloody play style and they're trying to like tactically dominate you and then pull off something insane. And then you have people who are just like positional chess. They try to get like one pawn advantage and then they just turn that into a winning position. Like the world champion, that's what he does. He's more like a Team Liquid LNG style where it's a small advantage, build up that small advantage. It's not pretty, but it gets the job done.
Yeah, I just think you can't make I don't think you can make a matchup in Group D where I'm like, oh, this is your winner right here. Like, this is clear.
Sure.
It's a fun group.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of fun betting on them. So first match, RNG against Hanwha Life. So in the top lane, I mean, Xiaohu definitely has an advantage over Morgan. I think that in a lot of spots, I try to give the case that Morgan's not that much worse than the other top laner. This is a spot where, I mean, Xiaohu is one of the best top laners in the world. Not because of anything that he does exceptionally well in the top lane. He's just a very good player. Like, the next evolution of League of Legends will be solo laners, not top laner versus mid laner. But we're not there yet. But Xiaohu is one of those guys that could do it. In the jungle, I think that Wei and Willer are pretty close. Willer didn't look anywhere near as good as he did the first day because he was on Jarvan. Like, you stop doing that. Don't put your jungler on Jarvan. It's so important to have a jungler who can do stuff. Like, yesterday when Mad Lions locked in Jarvan, you could see El Yoya shake his head and look down at the keyboard and just shake his head because he was probably like, I don't want to fucking play Jarvan. The champion doesn't do anything. In the mid lane, I do think that Chovy has a big advantage over Cryan. There's only so much you can do as a TF player. He's not the focal point of the team. The problem is that a lot of the times Hanwha Life doesn't play aggressively enough around Chovy. If we get him onto Tryndamere, Yasuo, another AD champion like we saw earlier on, maybe it would be a lot easier to press that advantage, especially if it's TF, you're supposed to attack the TF. So I do think that they have a winning chance there. Deft has looked pretty good in general so far. He's not going to embarrass himself, I think, just in general. So I don't really have a problem with them as a combination. I don't think that the Pyke really worked out. I was kind of surprised to see Vista on it. And I really do think that Gala is just overrated. They were losing the laning phase pretty hard today from a CS perspective because they picked Kai'Sa into an Ashe. And it was into Ashe Pyke, right? So when you... Or no. Yeah. It was Kai'Sa Nautilus into Ashe Pyke or something like that. It's just a really tough lane to play, so you're going to not look as good. But I just don't believe in Gala specifically. So it comes down to, do I think that Hanwha Life has a chance for an upset? Personally, I do. I'll probably bet them at the plus 200. I just don't think that line is accurate. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, so I'm always looking for a spot to go against the narrative. We do have like RNG coming off of 2 very impressive wins. Hanwha Life coming off of a very unimpressive loss. So this seems like a good spot to get on Hanwha Life. Specifically, like in DFS, I think this matchup probably has a lot of upside in DFS, and you could go with something like Hanwha. That said, I kind of just think RNG is going to beat them up. I forget sometimes that Hanwha was a team that went like 7-11 in the regular season in the LCK this season. Like, they just weren't good the whole year, basically. And then they kind of have had a resurgence in the regional gauntlet, and they had a good play-in against some pretty weak teams. But in the end, Hanwha Life just really hasn't been that good this season, and RNG has been pretty great. So I don't mind taking a shot on them in DFS. I feel like their upside is huge if they do win this matchup, but my gut tells me RNG is just going to beat them up.
Yeah, I think that it's going to definitely take Hanwha Life into some territory that they don't necessarily always operate in, but as long as they get a solid draft in, I think that RNG is going to keep going back to the TF well until somebody stops them. I think if RNG, it looks like their blue side, does the top team in these generally have side selection? Because it's like this is the first time through the round robin, so I don't know if that's going to swap or whatever. But if RNG...
I think it's just random for the first meeting.
Okay. If RNG... Oh, yeah, and then they give the opposite to the second one during the second round robin.
Yeah.
That would make sense. I think I have to play Hanwha Life here, so I'll bet the $20 on Hanwha Life probably. At plus 200, I just think it's a lot closer than that. The games that Hanwha Life ends up winning this, they're going to be bloodier than they normally are, so I agree we should probably play them on DraftKings. Let's go to the next game. So Mad Lions against LNG. LNG is minus 138. Mad Lions is plus 100. In the top lane, Ale I do think is better than Armut, but it comes down to the draft. If they get Wukong again and it's Wukong Yuumi, then I don't care what the laning phase is going to look like. That's just going to be annoying to deal with in the late game. Stylistically, it's the same situation as we had with Gen.G, where LNG is a little bit more slow and methodical. Mad Lions will show up to those fights, and you'd have to just out-team fight them. So if you're not drafting for that, then you're going to be in a bad situation. El Yoya against Tarzan, another stylistic difference. El Yoya is more of a a heavy farming give me all the resources type jungler. Tarzan can play those champions, but he is more of an old school jungler, so that does give an advantage from a draft perspective to Mad Lions, I think. If LNG is just looking for, another opportunity to play something like Sejuani or like a Jarvan, then it could be a problem. They had the Viego in this game against Team Liquid, which is kind of interesting. A lot of people thought Viego was completely dead, but we've seen it a couple times, and I think it has a winning record right now. In the mid lane, Icon against Humanoid. I think that Icon's just as good as Humanoid. I don't think that Humanoid is the type of player who's going to create a big advantage in the laning phase. And then in the bot lane, we have Karzi and Kaiser against Light and Elwandi. That one is not as much of a stylistic difference, but I think that if I assumed one team was going to be more aggressive during the laning phase, it would be Mad Lions. So they should theoretically have a tempo advantage. I'm never going to bet them at plus 100. So I think I'm just on LNG here for multiple reasons.
Yeah, I mean, I said it a minute ago, but I think this group is really hard to predict for me. I feel like all the teams in this group are capable of showing up and overperforming and capable of showing up and underperforming just given the day. Like, just not a lot of consistency between any of the 4 teams in this group, including these two. I mean, Mad Lions Day 1 and Mad Lions Day 2 is a totally different beast, and LNG Day 1 and LNG Day 2 is a completely different beast. Mm-hmm. LNG got absolutely stomped in Day 1 and absolutely stomped Team Liquid Day 2. Mad Lions looked like they had no fight in them Day 1 and had all the fight in the world Day 2. So it's really hard to tell on a day-to-day basis what's going to happen with these teams. I will say LNG doesn't tend to be a very good target when it comes to DFS and stuff like that. Their games don't tend to be great targets, so it's probably not one I'm looking to mess with.
Yeah, I do think that I do think that the Mad Lions could be a type of team that gets the best out of them in terms of kills and a win. So this might be one of the spots where I am interested to play LNG, even though I agree with you that they are not the best target in general. Okay. So I guess one point that I would want to try to ask you or try to make. So if you took the team names off of Mad Lions and LNG and just tried to describe their playstyles, which team would you have? What team would you give the advantage to just based off of their playstyle? Like, do you think that it's better to be the team fighting team with tempo advantages, like more aggressive champions in the early game, or would you rather be on the one trying to play like a finesse style of League of Legends?
I kind of think just stylistically, when I think about these two teams, I think I like the way they match up, not their overall style, but the way they match up. I think I prefer Mad Lions only because I think Mad Lions is good, like I said before, at finding good mid to late game team fights. And I think LNG is not smart. Like, they're not a super smart team. Icon in particular is one of my favorite players, is just the kind of guy who's going to be out of position before an Elder Dragon fight or something. And I think that's where Mad Lions is at their best, is trying to find a way to pick up an advantage in these mid to late game fights. So I think I'm more on the Mad side, but it's so close to me that I don't have a strong prediction on this matchup.
Yeah, I'm still on the LNG side. I agree, though. I do think that if I was not thinking about talent, if I was thinking just about team style, I do generally prefer the high tempo team that is drafting for the laning phase, has multiple engage options, and is ready to team fight you even when they're losing. I just think that's the correct way to play League of Legends. I understand the strangle out style of League that like Team Liquid tries to play and LNG plays to a high level. A lot of Korean teams play at a high level. It's just so much more difficult. You're basically playing the game on hard mode, and it's a nice thing to watch and it's impressive, but you don't need to do it that way. So, you're just essentially playing the game on hard mode. What's the next games? Fnatic, PSG?
Rogue and FPX.
Okay, FPX against Rogue. So this is a spot... Wait, they're playing again? Or no, it was FPX C9 today?
FPX played C9 today, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So Nuguri against Odoamne, I think that's a big advantage for Nuguri. Tian against Inspired. That's kind of a stylistic thing. I think the advantage stylistically goes to Inspired, actually, in that spot. Larson against Duenby, definitely Duenby, but there's always a chance that FPX drafts like a negative priority mid laner, because that just happens sometimes with them if they like blind pick Galio or something. Who did they pick today in the mid lane? Did they change it up? Malzahar. they go Galio Malzahar. Yeah. FPX is not drafting well right now, so this might be a good spot for Rogue. That's just mind blowing. Like the heart and soul of your team. Throw them on Malzahar. That'll be good. And then LWX and Crisp against Hansama and Trimby. I honestly think that Hansama is the type of player who can win this bot lane matchup against LWX and Crisp. I think that they are a reason to pick Rogue against FPX. I don't think we've seen the best out of FPX, and if you told me that FPX comes out tomorrow and completely dominates Rogue, wouldn't surprise me in the least. But I think I might have to play Rogue here at plus 240 for that reason, because you have to get rid of Draven, you have to get rid of Lucian. I think that the LWX could theoretically play those champions, but I think there's a lot of other options they're going to gravitate towards first.
Yeah, I gotta say, if you took average FPX from the first 2 days against average Rogue from the first 2 days, I think Rogue wins.
Yeah.
Like, I think Rogue's just played better at this tournament so far than FPX has. Now, the question is, are FPX just going to snap back to form? Because I think coming into this tournament, most people would have said FPX was way better this year than Rogue. But so far at this tournament, I think Rogue's been better. So it's pretty tough not to bet them at like a plus 240, plus 250-ish number.
Yep.
I think they make a good DFS play. I think FPX is the kind of team, I mean, at this point, it's going to be pretty tough for anybody to give up more kills than like Fnatic has been giving up, but I feel like FPX is a team that could give up a lot of kills in a loss, and Rogue looks like they're definitely, capable of beating them from what we've seen so far.
Yeah. Yep, definitely agree with that one. All right, next game, Fnatic against PSG. This is a weird spot. I know that people don't really believe in either team right now. What do you think about this one?
Fnatic PSG. This is a super interesting matchup because I feel like everybody is out on Fnatic right now. Like they're like Fnatic is doomed, they're dead, they're gone. And the general sentiment in the DFS world has got to be play against Fnatic. Whoever's playing against Fnatic, just put them in your lineup because Fnatic's giving up fucking 30 kills a game. Sorry. But
sorry to the kids.
It kind of feels like maybe this is the day to pivot back and take Fnatic against PSG here in DFS. Because they're still going to play just as bloody of a game, whether they're winning or losing, and this is their best shot to get a win against PSG here. So I think this game's going to be telling. I think this is going to be really telling. RNG, I don't really expect Fnatic to beat anyway, even Fnatic at full strength. I never expected them to come out and beat RNG. PSG is a team that, in theory, they should be capable of beating. And so if they come out and just get stomped again, then maybe it really is Fnatic is doomed for the rest of the tournament type feel. But I could see them coming out and beating PSG here and kind of getting some faith back from the world.
Yeah. I think that this is a spot that's a double reverse spot where I think that people are more than willing to come back to Fnatic. I think that people having used them so often in DFS, they kind of want that to be the case. So I don't think that you're getting an ownership discount specifically. Like that would be the best reason, I think, is if you told me, nobody believes in Fnatic, they're not going to carry any ownership. It doesn't matter that they're up against PSG. People are still too afraid to play them. I think that people aren't convinced by PSG's win today. I think that people will be ready to go back to Fnatic. So for me, it would be play both sides. If you wanted to get exposure to this game, I would say play both sides, and I would consider game stacking it. Some of these games have the chance of going completely out of control where it's like 20 to 25. So if you wanted to throw in one lineup or two lineups where like you 4-stack each side and then just got a different team slot from a different match, I wouldn't hate that. I think it makes some sense. It's just as a complete dart throw, but it's something that I would kind of consider. So if Fnatic was able to beat PSG, how do you think they would go about doing that?
I think it's got to be the top side of the map. I mean, I think Bean has played fine. I haven't had a problem with Bean, but I don't think you want to play towards Bean and Hillisang. I think it's about getting Whippo and Niski up into the top lane and winning 3v3s, 3v2s, trying to take advantage up there. I think that's probably their best shot against PSG.
Yeah. Okay. I hear you there. The line is minus 188 to PSG. I guess that's an okay line for Fnatic. Oh, man, what am I going to do there? I don't really want to bet on either team. I guess I have to take Fnatic at plus 137. That feels so disgusting. I don't want to do that at all.
Well, just think about it this way. Coming into the tournament, Fnatic versus PSG would have been Fnatic like minus 200.
And I would have bet on PSG in a heartbeat.
Yeah. So at least, you can say that if you don't think the 80 carry loss was that bad, then you're getting like 237 points of value or whatever from where it would have been.
Okay. All right. Next game, Team Liquid against Gen.G. For me, it's Gen.G. I'm not going to overthink this one. It's already kind of correlated with what I have going on in the sports book, so theoretically I could try to hedge out of it, but haha, I can't bet on Gen.G games, so doesn't matter. I'm rolling with Gen.G here, though. So
yeah, this one's not. It's from that same group where I said kind of you can't make a matchup that's too one-sided for me, but I'm kind of with you. I kind of think Gen.G is just going to win this one. Like I say, though, from this group, it wouldn't surprise me at all if they came out and looked a little flat. I think all the teams in this group are capable of coming out and looking flat, including Gen.G. So we'll see how it goes, but yeah, my money would be on Gen.G.
Yeah. Next game, C9 against Damwon. Play Damwon. I'm not playing Sven. Period.
Yeah, I mean, this is. I don't think the Damwon is some unbeatable menace. I think they're very beatable, and I think today they were put in a spot where we saw that they're beatable, but I just don't see Cloud9 doing it. I think Damwon probably just takes care of business here. It's one of those matchups where I feel like even if Cloud9, kind of like what happened yesterday, I feel like even if Cloud9 gets like a 3,000 gold lead, I'm just never going to feel like they're going to be able to close it against Damwon. They're just so much more mistake prone. It just feels like Damwon almost for sure.
Yep. And I don't even know what the line is on that one. I can't bet on that. So there's that. EDG against DFM. EDG minus 900. DFM plus 500. This is probably just, the final nail in the coffin. I think if DFM goes 0-3, the chances of them getting out are probably 0%. Not zero,
close.
but very close to zero. I'm not betting them at plus 500.
Yeah, I have a hard time figuring out a reason how you could be on DFM in this matchup. EDG has looked among the best teams in the tournament so far this tournament, and DFM has not looked great on the main stage. Feels like EDG, but also feels like another EDG game that I don't want to be involved with in DFS. This group in general is just not a great DFS group.
Yeah. 1 second. Sorry, I just got a phone call. Next match, and the final match is T1 against 100 Thieves. T1 is minus 350. 100 Thieves plus 250. I mean, I guess 100 Thieves is a live dog because of T1's drafting, but am I going to bet on them at plus 250? I don't know. That seems like not fun to me. I don't think T1 comes out and lays back-to-back stinkers. So
yeah, I mean, I kind of have planted my flag on this one. I kind of think that this matchup might be. Look, T1's the favorite for sure, but I kind of think 100 Thieves has a really reasonable shot here. I'm going to bet them at 250. Unfortunately, it's not a DFS game for me at all. I wish that this was a game that was a high kill expectation so that I could play some 100 Thieves. But I just don't feel like this game. I feel like even if 100 Thieves wins, this isn't going to be a game worth having in DFS. But I don't want people to be surprised if 100 Thieves comes out and wins here. I think, like I said, my one big prediction for all of Worlds was that the LCK non-first seeds were going to not look as great as people expected. And I think this is a spot where T1 could be a letdown. Sure.
All right. Well, not as long as yesterday, but I think that a lot of these games just aren't as interesting. The drafting stuff is just completely insane. Hopefully we get through tomorrow without teams completely shooting themselves in the foot. Like, it happens all the time, but it's just really frustrating to watch when you have money on it. Like when a team drafts into something that you just know is not good. And people in the comments and people who are watching this might think to yourself, why do you guys think that you know better? It's like, well, we watch hundreds or thousands of games a year. We pay attention to what's going on in solo queue. We play the game, and you then your next question or your next comment should be, oh well, don't the pros do that too? It's yeah, but they're in a high pressure draft situation and they make stupid decisions all the time. There's an obvious reason why some of these drafts look like complete shit, and they just have stupid opinions on stuff. They're allowed to be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth noting that I know a lot of players and coaches that are professional, and they don't watch as many games as professional bettors do. Even professional coaches don't. They also have a lot of their mentality skewed, and it might be for the positive sometimes and for the negative other times, but they have their mentality skewed by the fact that they only watch, like, they watch a lot more of their scrim games and things like that than they watch of, like, international games. Mm-hmm. And so while me and Pikel might have watched every LPL game, every LCK game or whatever, these guys might have seen just as many games, but they're mostly going to be NA games and scrim games. And sometimes they found out some cool stuff in those scrim games that me and Pikel don't know because we didn't get to watch them. But also sometimes Tryndamere mid is crushing scrims, and then when they bring it into the main stage, they look like dog shit, and we could have predicted that. like that's so. Sometimes they're more right than us, and sometimes we actually get a better beat than professionals or coaches. So, just a thought.
For sure. All right. Well, that's all we got for you today. If you want to help support this channel, check me out on Patreon, Discord, give me a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you want to help out the esportsdepartment.com in general, in the comment section or in the description, I should have the esportsdepartment.com/donate. That helps support all the creators at the esportsdepartment.com, including myself, when we do the Infinity Edge podcast, which will start up next year. John, thanks for talking to me again about Worlds. Hopefully we can do this again tomorrow. Good luck to everyone, and I'll talk to you later.
Talk to you later, guys.